Hi everyone, it's Shar. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today I'm doing a tag video, which I have to say I feel like I haven't done in like a year. I think it was literally like my first or second video ever. So this is gonna be fun. I've seen this tag going around. I saw it first from Novel Life, but I believe Steph was the one who created this tag. So credit to her. If I'm wrong, please let me know, but I think that's right. So in case you haven't heard of it, the book recommendations tag, it's me answering questions and giving you recommendations based on the answer to my question. I hope that makes sense, but it will in a second. So without further ado, I just thought this would be a lot of fun, so we're gonna jump on in. So the first question is, a book you tell people is your favorite. And I had such a hard time with this answer because an answer came to me immediately, but I also have my reservations about this book, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. But my answer is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I credit this book as one of the first books that got me back into reading. I really loved it. I completely fell in love with Evelyn Hugo because, again, you all know that I love a bad bitch. And in case you don't know what this book is about, this book follows Evelyn, and she is a famous Hollywood actress, or was a famous Hollywood actress in like the golden age of Hollywood. She is done acting now, and she invites this reporter named Monique to come and do a tell-all interview. And this is a big deal because no one knows why she picked Monique, and she's never done a tell-all interview. So the interview is about her career, how she became as famous as she is, and her 7 husbands, and the story behind each of them, as well as the story behind that story. I really love this. I think I just have very positive memories of it. I listened to this audiobook while I was in Madrid last year, and I just remember walking around the city and listening to the audiobook and having lunch and being in my hotel room. I remember sobbing my eyes out reading this book, but also loving Evelyn and loving her relationships and loving where the story went. So I really did enjoy this book, and this is a book that I usually tell people is my favorite. A book that is your guilty pleasure. Now, when it comes to reading, I don't really have guilty pleasures. I shamelessly read whatever I want. And because of that, I definitely had a hard time answering a book that's a guilty pleasure, but I'm not embarrassed about anything that I read. I mean, if you've seen my spicy book recommendations, you know that I'm not. But when I thought about like a guilty pleasure, I thought about like what other people might consider that. So my answer is I Married a Minotaur. And this is by Regine Abel. This is an alien romance set in the Prime Mating universe. So in I Married a Minotaur, we are following, if you're new to my channel, hello. I remember the characters' names for no books. So we're following this woman. She is a hunter, and she gets invited to this competition where there is a huge cash prize and you get money for like everything that you kill. The competition is not as violent as it sounds. They are tackling an invasive species on this planet that is completely decimating all of the wildlife on the planet and endangering the beings that live on it. So that's what the competition is about. The people are called the Naga, and the Naga are allowing the United Federation to hold the competition there to help them out with this invasive species. But the rule is that any of the competitors, they are not allowed to go in Naga territory. It is clear set boundaries. They have these little watches that alarm if they have done that and alert everyone that they've crossed into boundaries. Our main female character is totally willing to respect that, but she sees that there is this young Naga child who is being chased by one of this invasive species, and she knows that this child will die if she does not interfere. So she crosses into the territory. She saves this little boy who turns out to be the chief's son, I believe, and because she crossed into territory, there are consequences. But since she did it for noble reasons, they decide they're going to find a loophole, and the loophole is they won't kill her, but she has to marry someone within the tribe so that she becomes part of the community and therefore no longer violated the rules because she was part of the community. So she reluctantly agrees, you know, death or marriage. She chose marriage, and she marries this person who she already had a connection with. And this is the story of them falling in love, her learning to adjust to her circumstances and him helping her adjust to the circumstances. It's very steamy, it's very sexy, it is very much an alien romance. You're on an alien planet, and I love the scenery of this. Did I mention that our love interest is a snake? Yeah, he's a snake. And makes me laugh so much, but that's why it's a guilty pleasure. It is such a silly book, but it has so much like emotion and depth and just cuteness and comfort and like fluff. Has plenty of fluff, and that's what my heart really wanted. A book everyone liked, but you didn't. Finley Donovan is killing it. There are plenty of books that could fall into this category because, of course, we all look for different things in the books that we read. And even if we have similar reading tastes, it may just seem that way, but we like different things about the same book. So a book that everyone loved that I really did not like was Finley Donovan was killing it. This is a story about a woman named Finley. She has just divorced her like douchebag ex-husband. She's really struggling financially, and she is talking to her literary like publisher or agent at a Panera Bread one day, and they're talking about a book that Finley is writing that's going to help her get some money because she needs it for her family. And Finley is like a mystery writer, so someone overhears the conversation and assumes that Finley is a assassin for hire. So she slips a note into her bag and says, "I'm gonna pay you an obscene amount of money to kill my husband." And Finley is like, "No, but also maybe," because that's a lot of money. It quickly devolves into chaos from there. I didn't like this book. For me, it was a little too ridiculous. I didn't enjoy the humor of it. I didn't enjoy the plot. I felt like the plot was all over the place, and by the end, I think my expectations were also just too high, and I was like, no, this isn't for me. A book you read the fastest, that is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I read this last year or almost 2 years ago. I don't know. It was one of my first reading sprints that I was on, and I was just like, I'm just gonna pick up this book and I'm gonna read it. And I think I finished this book in literally like 3 hours max. So it was one of my fastest reading speeds, and I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving that book a pretty high rating, and I ended up reading the entire series and loving it. Book 3 is my personal favorite, and I think that also says a lot about me. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder follows Pip, and Pip is like in high school. She's in school in the UK, so the school is slightly different, but for some reason the American books are set in Connecticut. I don't fucking know why. So anyway, Pip has like her senior project that she has to do, and she decides that she is going to investigate a murder in her town where everyone thinks it was the boyfriend, and Pip is like, no fucking way, I knew that guy, it was not him. So she decides that she's going to investigate. It is mixed media. It is such a fun time. If you liked Pretty Little Liars, for the first book especially, I think you're gonna like this book. It just had the same energy. Like, I don't know how to explain it to you. It had the same energy. I did enjoy it. It's not my favorite in the series by any means, but it is such a quick read, and it was a fun time, even though I have personal reservations about the idea of letting a high school student investigate a murder and talk to everyone who was involved and bring up old wounds for the family and general feelings about true crime in general. But anyway, we move on. A book that deserves more hype. Now, I have 2 answers for this question. That's gonna be the case for some of these questions, not all of it. A book that deserves more hype is While We Were Dating by Jasmine Guillory. I've only heard a few people talk about this book, but this book is so fucking good. If you love a Hollywood story, you're going to love this book. Plus, it is all about joy and positive communication and the relationship between these 2 people and the things that they're working through. I just fucking loved it. So While We Were Dating follows Ben and Anna, and the only reason I remember their names is because I finished this book yesterday. So Anna is a famous movie star. She is vying for an Oscar, and she took a year off or so because she was really struggling with her personal life and her mental health. She's back on the scene and she's ready to get that Oscar. So she lands this gig for an advertising campaign for this new phone. That is where Ben comes in. Ben is like an advertising agent. I don't know what the title is officially, but he does that. He's the one running the campaign because Anna insists that he runs the campaign. It's so cute. They have this instant chemistry and connection with each other. And you know, they're they're pretty much ready to ignore it. They're like innocently flirting, but Anna is like, I'm gonna get my fucking mans. And you know, that happens. He helps her with a family emergency. They got even closer. Anna's agent is like, you know what this would be great for? A publicity stunt. So you can get that fucking Oscar. So they decide to fake date and be in the Hollywood spotlight. And this, like many romances, is the story of them falling in love. Like I've already mentioned, I just love this book. I love the communication in this book. I love the characters. I love their chemistry. I love how much it was about joy and happiness and them just being in love. I love how realistic their conflict felt. It was just so cute and deserves way more hype than what it has. The second answer to that question is Fire in His Blood by Ruby Dixon. And this is because I feel like the Ice Planet Barbarian series has so much hype, has new covers. Everyone knows about this series. I loved it, but my personal favorite series from Ruby Dixon is the Fire Blood Dragon series, and that starts with Fire in His Blood. We are following Claudia and this dragon, okay? Claudia lives in the world where a giant rip has opened up in the sky to another world, and dragons come in and completely decimate like almost everything. Humanity is left in little pockets in these small like towns, they call them forts, where people are just trying to survive. There isn't food, there isn't clean water, it's a very hard life. One day Claudia pisses off the mayor, and the mayor's like, we've been running this experiment, I'm gonna sacrifice you to this fucking dragon. So they take her into the city, which has been completely abandoned. They sit her ass on a skyscraper, and Mr. Dragon comes along. But lo and behold, the dragon has thoughts and is a sentient being and is a shifter. He smells her, he's like,
my goodness, my mental fog has cleared. It is my mate.
but he doesn't speak. He's stuck in his battle form, his dragon form. And Claudia has no idea what the fuck is going on, but this dragon is suddenly obsessed with her, and I am obsessed with this book. If you liked Ice Planet Barbarians and you like fantasy, give this a go. Like, it deserves just as much hype as Ice Planet Barbarians. A book that's becoming a movie or TV show. I'm gonna be honest with you all. If you're not new to my channel, you know that I don't watch TV, and not in the way of, I deserve a reward for not watching TV, but in the way of, I have a really short fucking attention span, and I do not have the patience to watch TV shows and try to get into them. I watch documentaries because for some reason my brain's like, hell yeah, space and dinosaurs. Anyway, because of that's about me, I don't really care when books get movies or TV show adaptations, because 9 times out of 10, I'm not fucking watching it. I don't care. The series that I chose for this question is the Percy Jackson series. The reason I chose this is because I know it's getting a TV show, and I loved Percy Jackson as a kid, as a teenager. It was my favorite series in the whole world. It filled my heart with so much joy. And because I love Percy Jackson so much, even though I'm not watching the TV show, this is my answer to this question. And in case you don't know, Percy Jackson follows the story of an 11-year-old boy who finds out that he is a demigod, and he has to go to this camp to train to be a demigod and go on this quest. In the first book, it's the lightning thief. He's trying to get the lightning bolt back to Zeus, and it just goes on throughout that, following him as he grows up. And I just love it so much. They are so freaking cute, and it is definitely a series that has such a soft spot in my heart. A book you've reread the most. There is only one answer to this question because I don't reread, but a book that I have reread the most is Fangs by Sarah Anderson. This is a graphic novel following the story of a vampire and a werewolf who fall in love. It is so fucking cute, like I cannot. The first time that I read it, I immediately reread it like 3 more times. I think in total, I've reread this book 7 or 8 times. Read it. That's all I'm gonna say about that. It is so fucking cute, like genuinely such a cute book. A book from a genre you don't typically read. I feel like this is a very obvious answer. I don't read a lot of sci-fi, but last year I read Project Hail Mary, and if you've seen my top books of 2022, then you know that I loved Project Hail Mary so much. So in Project Hail Mary, we are following an astronaut who wakes up in space and all of his crewmates are dead and he has no memories whatsoever. He doesn't know why he's in space. He doesn't know why he's on this ship. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing here. He doesn't know what his mission is, and he has to figure it out because he is on a mission to save all of humanity. And this follows him on the ship as he gets his memory back and tries to fulfill this mission, but also on Earth and what led up to him being on that ship and his background. It is very exciting, I think is the more accurate description of this book. It reads like a movie and I am obsessed. Project Hail Mary, especially the audiobook, is one of my favorite books and one of the few books that I've read within the sci-fi genre that's not a sci-fi romance. A book that deserves all the hype that it gets. You and I will both be surprised, but it's People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. The reason that's a surprise is because I DNF'd book lovers and I didn't like beach reads. So I didn't have very high hopes for People We Meet on Vacation, but I loved this book. I think it really is such a great example of friends to lovers done well. He falls first. It's just so adorable. So People We Meet on Vacation follows two people who were friends and they would go on vacation every single year together. But then something happened, we don't know what, and they stopped speaking. Until one day, our main female character decides that she really misses her best friend and her life is not going the way that she wants. And she really wants to try to salvage their relationship. So she reaches out to him and she says, hey, let's go on one more vacation together. He agrees, and this is the story of them coming back together, how they became friends, when they initially fell in love, why they never told each other, and what happens when they come back together and what happened that made them stop speaking. I love this book. It is deserving of all of the hype that it gets. It really is such a good example of friends to lovers done well. A book you usually recommend when asked to give a recommendation. My answer is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is my favorite in the Brown Sisters trilogy. I just relate to Eve so much. I love the spice level within this, and I like the setting of it, of this cozy bed and breakfast in a small English countryside. Act Your Age, Eve Brown follows the youngest Brown sister, Eve. And Eve has been known by her family to be like very flaky, very scatterbrained, not committing to anything that she does. And Eve is tired of that perception. She wants to find something that fits, but for her, that's a really hard thing to do. So she decides that she's gonna go to this interview at this bed and breakfast. And the interview does not go well. Bed and breakfast owner guy, he's like very aloof, makes it very clear that he doesn't wanna hire Eve. And Eve's like, whatever, fuck you, and like leaves. But she hits him with her car, oopsies. And he gets injured. He breaks his leg or something, and he's the only one running the bed and breakfast. So she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me help you with the bed and breakfast while you recover. He reluctantly agrees, and this is the story of them falling in love. Surprise, surprise. I just love this for all the reasons I already mentioned. This is a book that I typically would recommend if you are asking me for a romance recommendation. A book that has your favorite characters. This was an easy answer for me. That's A Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I love the characters. Here's how I know this. I remember their names. Elizabeth, Nathaniel, and Silas. A Sorcery of Thorns follows Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is a librarian of sorts. She's like protecting these ancient magical books. She ends up with Nathaniel, and Nathaniel is a magician of sorts, and Elizabeth is like, magic is evil, and Nathaniel's like, bitch, I don't give a fuck, I'm gonna do whatever I want. That's your perception. They have to come together to save the world, and Nathaniel also has a demon named Silas, who's his butler, but like also protects him and is bound to his family. Elizabeth and Nathaniel fall in love, and I high-key think that Silas is like part of that throuple. Just, you know, in my head. That's not canon, but in my head, that is what's happening. A book you wish you could live in. The first one is That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf by Kimberly Lemming. This is the story of a woman who accidentally throws a love potion at a werewolf. The werewolf gets splashed and he's like, oh my gosh, it's my fated mate. And she's like, wait, no, I'm not your fated mate. It's the love potion. He's like, no, it's not. We're destined to be together. They fall in love. So I picked this world because it just just feels so cozy. There's like a cheese farm and spices, and everyone gets drunk, and there are magical beings that people just kind of know about. And there's a beach, and it just feels so warm and cozy. It would feel like living in a fairy tale is what I imagine, except that people are adults and are like super fucking goofy, and that just sounds like fun to me. My second choice is Sweet Berries by C.M. Nacosta. Sweet Berries is the story of a woman who works for like marketing for this farm, and my girl is super fucking horny. Literally the opening line is she's too horny to think. She's super fucking horny. She goes home to masturbate, and boom, a Mothman lands outside of her window, and she now has a peeping Tom. But surprise, surprise, she likes that. Peeping Tom guy feels really, really, really bad because he didn't mean to land in her tree. He just smelled berries and he was hungry, but then he saw her and was like entranced. And he feels bad. So he goes to apologize to her, and he's actually super sweet and super nerdy, and he's a scientist. Please do not Google Mothman, okay? He looks like the guy on this cover. If you look up the Mothman, you will be traumatized and you will be horrified that she is with a Mothman. But I picked this world because it just, again, it feels very cozy. I just picture constant golden sunsets and beautiful, lush, rolling fields and just fantasy beings existing and being out in the world. A book you thought you would hate, but ended up loving. I also have two answers for this question. My main one is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. The reason I thought I would hate this book or like dislike this book is just because I saw so many reviews of people like not liking this book. So Love on the Brain follows the story of Bee, and Bee is a scientist. She really wants to work at NASA. And when Bee was getting her PhD, she had this TA guy named Levi, and Levi thought she was really fucking ugly and hated her, or at least that's what Bee thinks. But lo and behold, Bee does get the job at NASA. And guess who's her partner? That's right, it's Levi. Levi thinks that Bee is married because when he knew Bee, she was engaged, and he very much like has the hots for Bee, but he's like, I'm not gonna go there. Levi is definitely an asshole. Bee calls him the fuck out on it, and I just loved this book. I ate it up. I ate it up, and I thought I wouldn't like it, but I did. And the second one is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I didn't think I would like this because, again, the reviews were mixed, and it just definitely didn't sound like my thing. I was like, why would I care about this woman sitting in a cabin and watching this other family? Like, the fuck? But I did. And the reason why I like this is because it gets weird. Very, very, very weird. And I was like, you know, I could be here for this. I can. A book that made you cry. For this one, I could only think of the most recent book to make me cry, and that is Migrations by Charlotte McConaughey. I don't know why I ever thought this was like a thriller. It's not. It's like a science fiction, literary fiction book. So we are following a woman named Franny, and Franny does research on the migration patterns of birds. And we're living in a version of Earth where global warming and climate change has made almost every wildlife species extinct. If you can think of it, they no longer exist. The only things that exist are a very, very, very small number of birds and the animals that are domesticated and farmed because people eat them. So that is what's going on. She is dealing with a lot of issues. She had a lot of secrets in her past, but she convinces this boat and this crew to help her track the migrations of this bird, because the birds are going to where the food is, and they're fishermen, so they need food. So they agree, and while they're on the boat, they end up being stuck together. Franny's secrets come to life. That's probably why I thought it was a thriller. It is not. It made me cry just because it covered a lot of conversation and topics about grief, losing oneself, the things that Franny has to overcome. You're so much in her own head and in her heart. I was surprised, but I was sobbing. I did vlog that, so you will see my reaction. That is the most recent book that made me cry. And our final question. A book that you wish you could read for the first time. I have two very, very different answers to this question. The first one is Count Your Lucky Stars by Alexandria Belflor. If you're not new here, you know that I really loved this book. This follows the story of Margot and Olivia. It's a second chance romance. Margot and Olivia were best friends in high school, but something happens between them and they stop speaking. It's been over a decade. Olivia is now divorced and she is a wedding planner, and she gets the opportunity to plan this very high profile wedding for a very rich couple. The person who is part of the wedding party is Margot. That's right, her high school best friend, Margot. So they reconnect and Olivia's apartment gets flooded. So Margot offers that Olivia can come and stay with her in the bedroom that she now has open. So they come back together, they talk through their past. There's a bunch of fun wedding events that they go to, and it is just super steamy. I love this. I listened to the audiobook, which I definitely recommend. It's very, very good, and I would love to read this book for the first time. My second answer to this question is The Carroll Haunt by Darcy Coates, because I fucking love a haunted house story, and this is one of my favorite haunted house stories. So in The Carroll Haunt, we are following a woman who does ghost tours for this very notorious house called the Carroll House. It's so well known because it's where a serial killer lives, and it's notoriously haunted. So she gives ghost tour, and one day this man comes up to her and he's like, I really want to do a paranormal investigation. No, the family has never allowed this, but I know you're really close to them. Can you please convince them and you can be part of our investigative crew? She somehow manages to do this, but the house is really fucking haunted. But because it is my idea of a really good haunted house story, I would love to read this book again for the first time. And that's it. Those are my answers to all 15 of those questions. I hope that you were able to find a recommendation that worked for you. I loved so many of these books for the various reasons we have already discussed. Thank you so much for watching this video as always. Subscribe if you would like to. I would love to have you stick around for my future videos, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!